Okay, so we're on question 11b2. There are a lot of things going on. Okay, but we've got our oranges, we've got our trees, we've got orchards, we've got harvests, and we've got some more information that is given in a strange format in some ways, and you'll see why I say that in a second. It's further given that all the oranges are picked and packaged with 9% for something, 31%, the rest are made into juice, and all we care about is made into juice. So, of course, why are we given this as a separate bit of information? Doesn't really matter. The fact is that 40% go somewhere else, and the rest are made into juice. 9% are selected for export. Now, it's unclear. Sent to the factory. I mean, of course, these could go to another factory and made for juice, but let's not overthink this. So, in other words, what we really care about is that 60% are made into juice. Okay, so 60%, in fact, let's just write that as 0.6 is the probability that a picked orange is made into juice. Right? Now, there are two ways at least to get into this question. The one is to leverage the hard work that we did in question 1. In question 1, we found that the probability of not being picked, so probability of not picked, was equal to 0,195. Well, from that, we know what the probability of being picked is, right? Because either you're picked or you're not picked. So we've got 0, well, you could figure this out, right? 805. Now I'm terrified because I don't have a calculator here. No, I do. So let me check myself. I'm sure that seems right. But, 1 minus 0,195. 0,805. Phew, okay. So that's the probability of being picked. Well, all we need to do is we want to be picked and made into juice. So we want to be picked and made into juice. Easy. There's our calculation. 0,805 times 0,6 equals whatever it equals. And that's our percentage. It says percentage. So our final answer must be as a percentage, and I think the front page says 1 decimal place. So just bear that in mind in your final answer, not as a fraction, or I guess a percentage. Anyway, so the other option of doing this is to say, well, let's kind of redo our hard work from question above and say we want to get picked from the first harvest and get made into juice, or notice all the ands and the ors, picked from the first harvest and made into juice, or, so then we're going to do a plus. We want to be not picked from the first harvest, and we want to be picked in the second harvest, because you can only be picked in the second harvest if you weren't picked in the first harvest, right? And then, and you want to be made into juice. I say this, and you want to be, but that's what we want. That's the outcome we're looking for. So we can take that and add that together. You could combine those, of course, and say you want to get, just block your ears if you don't like this next part, but you can combine those ideas to say, well, you want to be picked in the first harvest, or you don't want to be picked and you want to be picked in the second harvest, and both of those things, and you want to be made into juice. But that's actually, rub that out, ignore that. But there are lovely other ideas you can do with your probabilities and ands and things. But we don't need that complexity. Okay, so out of all of this mess of a question, hopefully you can see these unique ways of doing it. And this one's quite a nice, neat way to think through it. You want to be picked, made into juice, done. Or you just look at it from scratch and say, you want to be picked in the first harvest and made into juice. Or you want to not be picked in the first harvest, you want to be picked in the second harvest, and you want to be made into juice. Okay, so one more question looks like it's coming up. I see it right at the bottom of the screen. Let's tackle that in the next video.